Hi, welcome. So in this video, we are going to look at dates and time functions, some very common ones. Remember, there are so many functions, and we're just going to introduce you to some of the most commonly used date time functions in SQL so that you can be more comfortable when you see dates. And then we're going to continue with strings and the other things. So I know you've been learning a lot in this series on the DQL, and in the last video we looked at some of the alter and update. So we are going to use just some of it here. So if you haven't looked at the last video, you can just go back and brush up on the alter and the update. And then let's just go straight to the computer and see how to play with date and time functions. So here, remember we have this our database that we created in a video. So the video is your create a database. So you can always go back and take a look at that video and then be able to create the same database. And also you can also learn how to install Workbench from an earlier video. So let's just look at what we have today. So today we are going to look at some date time functions, and let me just open up like the staff demographic table here. So here is our staff demographic table, and we don't have dates here. So we are going to use our knowledge of the previous video to add a date column. So you can always go back and check that. So let's just do that now. So I'm going to add a start date. Let's just say we want to add the date our staff started working. So we are going to, the first thing we have to do is alter. That's the first thing you have to write. We saw in the last video, alter table, and then which was the name of the table, the staff demographic table. And then now you add now what you want to add. So you say I want to add a start date. Let's say I want to add a start date, and that start date is actually a date. So you can just close that. Let's run this. So if we check our table now, we have a date which is empty. So in the last video we showed you how to refill maybe the existing table, an old table. You want to fill this first value here, or the second value, or this third value. We've seen that in the last video, so you can always go back and check. Now I just want to insert one new value and then one new row, and then we just put in some values there, and then we try to play with it. So insert into staff demographic, yes, that's where I want to insert into values. Then now you remember you have to open your brackets here, and then you put your value. So I'll just say staff ID number 113. Then the first name of the person is Jude. So let me just take Jude. Then the next thing about the person is the last name, which is, let's just take Ryan. Then the next thing is the person's age, which is 28. Then we say person's gender is a male. And then we also have the date. So this is now, we can just call this the start date of the person. So this is where the person started working. So we are going to run this. So when we run this, let me just select this and we run. So now if we check our data here, we have this new value for Jude here. So we have 2023-02-01. Okay, that's fine. Now let us look at we're going to use that, but let's just look at one, maybe the first date function, which is the current date. So there might be times when you just want to get the current date from your data, and we saw a similar thing in Excel. You can look at today or now. So we just are trying to link some of those things that we've been learning together. So what you just do, you just set select. So it has this function already, call date. So if I close this here, then we just call this current date. So you see it already popping up. So you don't have any value inside here because it's the date of today. So just like Excel, we used today or now. So when you run this, you're able to get the current date of today. So actually I'm recording this on the 28th of March 2023, but you're going to receive this sometime later. So this is the current date of today. So that's one date function. And so let us try to get this our date that we just created, and then we are going to also play with the concept of CTE, and then use that CTE. Like, remember, it's kind of, you want to use chain commands so that you can be able to use it to get some date function. So just make it a bit interesting. So let's just first see how to call that exact date we just created. So normally we would say select and then start date. So remember, we've done a lot in this series, so you can always go back and watch to practice more, as we've learned a lot of interesting things in SQL. So the more you practice, the more you're going to be used to it. So select start date only, the column start date only, from the staff demographic table. So we take it from this table, and then we say we specify that where the staff ID equals to 113, so 113. So when you run this now, for example, you get this value. So this is our value. So we have interesting functions like we saw in Excel, like to get the day, to get maybe the month, to get things like year. So remember, in Excel you just put the year and then you put the date in. So it's almost the same in SQL. So your learning is just getting better. When you learn one, you can easily learn the other. So now we have this. So a CTE can help us bring this as the first step, and then now we call maybe the year or the day or the month on after calling this, because this is the value we know we are going to get. So let's just make it interesting. Let's see how it is. So let's create a CTE. Remember, we've done a video already for CTEs, so it might be good to go back and review it so that you are chaining some of the learnings together. So let's just say we want to create a CTE and give it some names, some name like staff dates, for example, and then we want to say as. We always have to call the as. Then we open up the CTE here. Now we take this thing that we've written here, we take it and then we paste it here inside here, for example. So if we paste it here, we are saying select this from that, and then if we close this, let me just close this one. Yeah. So now the next thing now is we need now to call this CTE. So how would we call it? We could call, maybe as I showed you here, you can have the day or the month or the year. So let's just take month, for example. So if we say select month, so that's how you call the month, and then inside here you have to put a date to get the month. So if, for example, we had a date, we just put the date here. If we had a date, we put that date there, then we can be able to have it here, so we can just get the month from here. But let's just make it interesting by first running this CTE, getting this value, and then calling it here, just to show you how you can chain your commands. So we select the month of start date, because we also know we just took only start date column, so that we get just this answer. It needs but the date and nothing else but the date input, so you can't do more than the start date column here. So we want to get that start date now from our newly created CTE. So from our CTE staff date. So our CTE here is staff date, staff underscore date. So let me just write it well. So when we run this, let's run this. So here it is saying staff db dot staff date doesn't exist. So actually what it wants is that we should be able to give it a clear like this from this table, because we are saying with staff date as start date from which table, from staff DB. So we say staff, let me go there, staff underscore DB dot staff demographic. So when you run this, it says the staff DB staff date doesn't exist. So here we can see that the problem is coming from here in reality. So we had staff dates and then we have staff date. So I just wanted to call the full part to be sure. So let's run this now. We get the right thing. So here we've seen that the month is the second month, and then we could even say what is the year. What is the year? So I ran the whole thing. I ran it all. Normally I just run just this section. So you say we in the year 2023, and you could even say what is the day. You run it here, run this one, and then we could have it like the day is 1. So it's the first first day, and then 2023. So it's interesting to see that you can just use a CTE like this to call this, and then when you pass the date in, but you could simply just say select day and then you pass a date like a text here, which will still work. So this is, you've understood now how to use the select day, select month, select year. So another interesting thing you might want to know in SQL for your date might just be the add date. So you could say I want to be able to add date. For example, select let's just take a simple case. So the city was interested, let's just take a simple case, straightforward. So select, then now you say I want date add. So you can also think that subtract will do the same thing. Date add, and then we can just take some date, just take a date like maybe 2018 06 15, and then we say we have to tell an interval. So we have to pass an interval, and then we say we want maybe 10 days. So add 10 days to what you currently have. Let me just close this one here, and then we run this. For example, we run this one. So we get the date moves from the 15th day to the 25th day. So it could be minutes, it could be hours, it could be anything you want to add here. So you could either add, say I want you to add me 10 days, or I want you to add me 10 months, or so you can always play with just this value here. And same as you could also do a subtract. So you could also do sub here, sub. So running it now like this, you would be subtracting from the 15 days to the 5th day. So it still gives you the information you want with the date add and date sub. So again, you must not always add by days, you could add hours, you could add minutes. See, so another interesting function that you might want to note in date is the date difference. So we can say select, so date diff. So if you want to be sure, you have it comes for you, so it shows you that yes, you're right. So we could have maybe 2 dates inside here. You would have your date 1, and then you have your date 2 here, and it's going to give you the difference between these 2 dates. I hope you are able to learn how to manipulate dates in this video with some of the most common functions. There are many, so many date and time functions. So it's just left now for you to carry on with this knowledge, play more, experiment more, and be more comfortable manipulating dates. So see you next video. Wish you good data luck.